Hello, and welcome to another episode of playing Crusader Kings 3 on the hardest possible difficulty settings, starting as the Duke of Bohemia in 1066. At the end of last episode, we actually reformed the Holy Roman Empire, which is a significant spike in our power level. We just reformed it. Haven't done much since then. We want to take a look at some additional options we have available, starting with our military. We get another regiment that we can make. I think the best options here are really between armored horsemen and crossbowmen. Armored horsemen do a lot more damage, provide pursuit, help destroy enemy armies, and there's a lot to be said for getting them here. That said, I'm going to go with crossbowmen. Reason why is crossbowmen counter what the AI, and for that matter the player, typically use as men-at-arms. Heavy infantry, heavy cavalry, and archer cavalry for nomads. I already do have one regiment of crossbowmen. Having a second will really reduce the damage that opposing powers can use with their main MMAs, or MAAs, men-at-arms. So we will create that regiment, get it up to full size. I also want to look at whether we got any good artifacts to replace some of our current ones. We were hoping to be able to usurp the HRE as it existed. Unfortunately, it seems to have dissolved or otherwise been destroyed right before we were planning on being able to have enough territories to claim the title. Looks like, unfortunately, we do not get much in the way of the special artifacts that the HRE usually has, like, the Throne of Charlemagne. Do want to check if I got the Reich's crown. I think maybe, whenever the HRE is formed, you get this. It's a very powerful crown. In fairness, our current crown is quite good on its own. But it looks like we did not get much in the way of additional artifacts. So in the previous episode, we had gotten the Pope to sign off on our anointment. So we will have another coronation. As always, we want to get mountaineers. We're crossing the Alps because the Alps are very dangerous to cross. We will customize our route to hit a few points of interest on the way there. Might as well get that extra experience. Looking, I guess we could hit this one to start with. Interesting question will be what oath we want to swear. We've already done the ensure peace oath, so that probably will not be offered to us again. I don't think the game allows you to double up on oaths that way. So we'll have to give some thought into what oath we do want. Currently have one of our daughters as our heir because of her good genetic traits here. Just want to look to see if she'd had any more children. If she does, we will certainly want to educate them. Hopefully she will have a boy who will be able to take the strength in the bloodline decision later on. An interesting item with some benefits, particularly army movement speed. At least I think at the moment it doesn't replace any of our current artifacts. We'll take the safe option here. Just have our inspiration artifact take a little bit more time. As you can see, we now can vassalize a number of nearby rulers. Some of them are still Tengri, apparently. I think let's get anointed and see if we can offer vassalization and get them to accept terms that are better for us. These new vassals aren't surprising, given that we now own the HRE, and so they fall within our de jure realm. For this, I usually just skip over and say we had better be going. We don't want to take the hit to cultural acceptance, don't want to spend money, so just take the option to effectively do nothing. I talked earlier about that for floods and often other sorts of natural disasters. If you wait, your vassals generally take care of it. You see that's what happened there. Give this territory that we inherited to someone in our family, our brother, who is a highly qualified martial character. Seeing our brother does make me want to just check our succession. It is our daughter. Keep building up a few buildings here. Getting some max level buildings that are quite expensive, but obviously we have a large amount of gold, so that should be fine. For this one, we will take the option. Makes us less likely to get drained by mosquitoes. In terms of our intent, often when I first take a throne, because my father has died, I will go with impress attendees, because there are a lot of factions, and you want to improve your vassal's opinion to prevent them from being in factions and triggering a revolt. Since we've already been a ruler for quite a while, you see we don't have any factions. Often go with Exalt the Crown, so we can improve our artifacts, arguably get some renown, and so we will go with that option. Wife is having another child, which is good. Possibly triggered by us becoming emperor, since if you're an emperor, the number of children you can have increases by 1. We talked a lot last episode about this guy is no longer a scourge conqueror. Even when the Cumans were ruled by scourge conqueror, we didn't give them any of our courtiers. We certainly aren't doing it now. It's almost certainly the case that our army is more powerful than theirs, especially considering that we could hire in mercenaries against them. Convince this one to give us tribute. Actually, she should be willing to join us at some point, since Burgundy is, I was incorrect. Burgundy is not part of the HRE, but part of Francia instead. Again, my general tendency is to give in to vassals. When doing so doesn't cost me anything. interesting increase. The English crown is what we currently have. It's very powerful. I was planning on making the Reich's crown our primary crown going forward, but especially if English crown gets another 20% martial lifestyle experience, I think maybe we will stick with that one instead. So that is a very nice perk. Might as well take this mail, though I think it's worse than what we're currently wearing. So same idea again, just increasing the legitimacy of all these other rulers. Doesn't hurt me, so I'm fine to do that. Continuing to get martial perks at a relatively fast rate. Do want to take a look at that armor that we just got, seems to be better than we have. Pretty similar overall. Certainly there are better armors out there that we hope to get in the future. For this one, don't like giving sanctioned war declaration. Instead, just take the slight increase to our magnificence. Here, get the opinion from same faith attendees that are zealous. Click through some of these, you see we only have one detractor and he's this single count, so it goes back to our vassals being satisfied with our rule, not having any significant factions, or really being worried about them revolting against us. Again, don't think we will need to try to convert any rulers in our realm. I think we will go with Supreme Anointment just so we can get piety. And then here's the decision we have to make. We talked about it earlier. Expand the realm is going to be challenging, given we only have 20 years and we need 36 new counties. Shape the realm. We built lots of buildings. I just don't even know that we have enough building slots left open to do that. Foster Enlightenment looks like something we could do. Prague has a university. We obviously have much more than 225 gold. We have a 5th level education trait. Get some more development growth, so that's probably where we're going to go. Greatest Hunter, we haven't really been focused on. Likewise, installing claimants could be challenging. Yeah, so let's go with Foster Enlightenment. I rarely do this one. At least if I'm reading it correctly, we ought to be able to satisfy it immediately. If not, we'll do our best to. And we do have 50 years, which is an awfully long time. So we'll go with that one. Here, I think we take the first option, has the overall best odds of getting a positive outcome, but it did not. With this first option is that's an act of tyranny. I think we'll go with the bottom option to get a little more gold. So here it's really between these first and second options. We'll go with trying to get our artifacts a positive modifier. This one, don't want rivals. Let's take the stress loss and opinion gain. expected, we can immediately take the Foster Enlightenment decision. I don't think there's any reason not to take it or to wait on it. Our suzerain is facing a peasant revolt. It's a fairly serious revolt. They have a somewhat fewer troops than him, but it's close. Son, who unfortunately does not have very good genetic traits. So we'll be sticking with our daughter as our player heir. Now that we are back home and have completed our coronation, let's take another look at seeing if we can vassalize these people and getting at least normal feudal obligations. Looks like most of them we can. This one we can get high feudal obligations, as with this one. And so this is something significant that we do want to look at here. If you go above 160 counties in your realm, what that means is that other rulers can attack your vassals without attacking you as the ultimate overlord. So if someone wanted to say attack the Duchy of Austria, they could do that. I would not be able to join for 3 years, and potentially we could lose the Duchy of Austria without me having an opportunity to defend it. Doesn't apply to the Duchy of Bohemia or other places where I have my domain, but it's something to be cognizant of. It's also a reason to consider adopting a centralized bureaucracy, which means you go to administrative government. For whatever reason, administrative governments seem to have vassals that are better able to defend themselves against these sorts of attacks by foreign rulers who are seeking just to conquer vassals and avoid fighting me as the ultimate ruler of the realm. I've been trying to sway the Pope, but unfortunately, because I'm gregarious, I will gain stress every time I do that, especially since he's at 100. Let's simply stop. It's one of the weird aspects of the gregarious trait that Paradox added, I guess, years ago at this point, where you get stress if you fail to sway someone. Make sure we're wearing a crown, which we are not. I think we'll go with this crown over the Reichskrone. You can see here this has renown as powerful vassal opinion. Just added monthly martial lifestyle experience, which is very powerful. So long as we don't have problems with vassal limit, I think Inger's crown is actually a better choice. Now, so we can't take all of his land. I wonder how much it takes to usurp. I can usurp him right now. So we will do that. Usurp the King of Lotharingia. My guess is that these 4 realms that resulted from that will be willing to be vassalized by me. brother that we should marry. Try to find someone who is either beautiful or Herculean. This girl's Herculean, so that satisfies what we want to do. Change this contract for more gold. Always want more gold. See about what sort of accolades we might want to have. Just checking the ones that we already have. Crossbow captain. We have 2 significant regiments of crossbowmen there and there, so I think crossbow captain works quite well. Yeah, I think let's go with that. We could also get lancer, which is for heavy cavalry. Go forward, vassalize those realms in Lotharingia. We will check on our court amenities here to make sure they're all still at maximum. We still have 9 more years before we can hybridize our culture again. When we do hybridize, we want to do it with the Rhinelanders. So we will change promote cultural acceptance with them. The reason for the Rhinelanders is that they themselves are already a hybrid culture, so they have quite a few traditions that we will be able to pick from. It also should be doing well in terms of getting new innovations, though that's perhaps less true than I expected. We did have a Black Death a few decades ago, which devastated the development of all the counties in the world, and the rate at which you find innovations is based heavily on the development of the counties of that culture. And so since all counties all have lower culture now, that slowed down the rate at which they discover innovations. The obvious exceptions is our own culture, where we have rebuilt the development to be quite strong in all of our domain. Let's see what we are doing in terms of innovations. Also curious, I think we actually do need quite a few more innovations before we can trigger the late medieval era. Still 25 years before we could do it in any event. We are pretty close on some of these innovations, so don't think it'll be much of a concern. There are some kingdom titles here that we can reform. We want to hold all these. Helps with our prestige, among other things. Negotiate an alliance with our brother. Let's go on this hunt. It's not too far away. It isn't. So we'll do that. And then as we're going on the hunt, we'll want to think about where we want to go next. We are still a tributary of the Cumans. If we wanted to, we could change that, break away from them. I tend to think it's not necessary. I'm still guessing that they'll collapse on their own, though it's possible they won't. If we don't attack them, then our other options primarily looks to be France here. We're in activity, so we can't see what our options are in terms of attacking him. But I think once we get done with this hunt, we take a real look at France. France is a very large kingdom. It would be nice to add it. We'll increase our power. So, man, he's just a bad character. It's unfortunate that we did not make an effort to have our now deceased father raise him. Fortunately, when we took over this character, he was, the son was already relatively old. You see, he has a very poor education. The reason I'm bemoaning all this is obviously he just had a son who would satisfy the strong-blooded decision and has very good traits. But I don't think there's a reason to have our character educate that son that could be strong-blooded, since his father is just not a character we'd want to play given the other options that we have, particularly our daughter here. I do hope our daughter will have some more children, and particularly one that can satisfy the strong-blooded decision. Here we do want to increase the likelihood of us getting better artifacts. Unfortunately, we failed on that one. Had to pay a lot of gold as well as some prestige. Not a huge deal given the quantity of gold we have. See, the Cumans are facing another uprising, similar size army as theirs. Have to see if they were able to put it down. We have very few claims on France. We have some piety that we could try to use to get the Pope to give us claims. But that would be challenging. Another option would be to see there is some claimant to France that we could bring into our realm. It actually does not seem, these are all implicit claims, so they're not even claims that currently exist. They're claims held by the children of the current ruler that will become press claims once the King of France dies. So the only person who actually has a claim on France is this woman. The problem is, under Christianity, you cannot press the claim of a woman against an adult male ruler. There's not a great way to crack into France short of going down the scholar tree and learning and getting unsanctioned loopholes, or sanctioned loopholes, I should say. So with France off the table, let's see, maybe we can go into northern Italy, which we can, especially since this guy is Tengri. So we will grab these couple of counties from him. Don't have any significant claims on Venice. Just looking around to see if there are other places we can attack instead of just raising our armies just for a couple counties in Verona. But perhaps there are not. This goes back to why I do not want to swear an oath to expand the realm, because I thought expansion would be challenging, and obviously it would be. I generally don't like getting attrition, and so just siege down this county before heading straight to its capital. Last decision, we had a very high chance of success, so that's why I took that option. Have the Katana, which is a very interesting artifact. If you have the option of having multiple wives or having concubines in particular, being able to seduce women from outside your court to come into your court and to be your concubines is very powerful. Obviously, for a Christian ruler, it's not useful. Let's see if our courtiers, if we have in particular all the court artificers that we would want. Often, unless they are historical characters that are really good at creating books, just leave them on being his first option, since going on an adventure and getting a unique artifact is very powerful. Counties out to some family members. This band. There is a part of me simply thinks it's time to take on the Cumans. We could do a holy war for Poland, get quite a bit of territory that way. If we defeat them, that might lead to their collapse. Then we could use duchy holy wars to cut into the successor states that continue to exist after them. So I think we will cease paying tribute, not that we were paying anything to begin with. Instead, embrace being fully independent. For this, talked about before, that despite whatever the percentages tell you, it often seems like you get negative results. So I would just tell them to leave him alone. Would like to get more piety in case we need it to get claims in the future. I assume after ending our tributary relationship with the Cumans that we would have a peace treaty, but I was incorrect. If we want to, we can attack them right now. I guess, do we want Poland or Hungary? I think I'd actually rather have Poland. We already have bits of Hungary. And so I think that taking Poland is the better choice here. So let's see. We before we do that, which is a significant step, because even though they're no longer ruled by scourge conquerors, they do have a quite large army. Let's take a look at our ruler. Make sure we have the traits we want. Ideally, we'd get sappers, but it may not be necessary given that we have engineered for destruction, as well as being an exalted warlord, which gives its own bonus to siege speed. So I think let's use our Kingdom of Holy War, Casus Belli, to reclaim Poland here. You can see that we have far more gold than he does. Even if we get in trouble, I think it will be very easy for us to hire a large quantity of mercenaries and turn around anything he might do. He will steal a scourge conqueror, or I should say, if the Kumans are still ruled by a scourge conqueror, that might be more tricky. Could be that a scourge conqueror would have such a massive advantage that we just wouldn't be able to overcome it. But against a regular ruler, even one with a large army, I think we should be able to prevail relatively easily. See, we're sieging quite fast. Also see that because of the living off the land perk, we start at 300 supplies. It'll be quite a while before we get to the place where we have low supplies. Our armies are starving. So our daughter and heir just had a granddaughter that does not have the traits necessary to take a strong blood decision, so we won't worry about her, and we'll continue hoping that she has a male heir who can take strong blood. This, I think we just confront her. Got more armor. Son marrying a Herculean woman. This, we actually do not want improved pillaging because we don't want the loss of advantage. So we will just go with improved defense. This is the son who is a poor character on his own, frankly making a strong statement that he should be our heir simply because he has had very impressive children. I'm really reluctant to make him our heir, just in case. Start educating this very qualified child. Well, grandchild, I should say, which is part of the issue. If you are a direct child, we'd be very happy. Instead, to get to him, we have to go through his rather questionable father. I don't think there's any way I was about to say I don't think there's any way to make our grandchild our heir, but I believe in fact that there is a way to do that, which would require us to become administrative, go to acclamation succession, and then spend enough influence to make that grandchild our heir. So that maybe that's something to think about. But even though we're at absolute crown authority, I don't think we can designate him as our heir. No. Make him marshal. bit reluctant to become administrative and then hope we can sort of game the succession system to get one of our grandchildren in place. I've tried to do that before sometimes with disastrous results. We're in a quite good position in this game, but one way that we could throw it is if we have some sort of bad succession that splits our domain away from our ultimate title of Holy Roman Emperor. And we could end up playing some character who's a Holy Roman Emperor but has no holdings or just a one county holding. And all of our land in Bohemia would go to someone else. That would be disastrous. So don't really want to make that kind of mistake. See that some of the Cuman's allies are sieging down parts of our realm. I don't think that's a huge concern since we're sieging much faster than them. If they start sieging in my domain, I may reevaluate and go back there. Here we see some of the Cuman's army, but not much. Would like to get in some battles with the Cumans since that would probably end the war faster than sieging down town after town. See if there are any unruly vassals we need to sway. This guy isn't even that upset with us. Sway him to get him all the way on the side. We will now go over here and see if we can get a fight with the Cuman's allies. And see if we can that banner is not something use, so we might as well just destroy it. That went quickly, but you could see we had a massive advantage of 94. One of the things that makes Scourge Conquerors so challenging is compared to the player, they get an advantage of an additional 35, which is just huge. They get 10 from us being on very hard, and then 25 from being Scourge Conquerors. And one of the problems early in the game is even if you have what you think looks like a significant army, each point of difference in advantage leads to 5% more damage by the army of the general that has the higher advantage. And so early on, if you try to fight a Scourge Conqueror, their advantage will be so high, their armies will be doing so much damage to yours that you just will not be able to defeat them. Instead, you will often get stack wiped. And so that's why we were so concerned early on about not fighting them. The vassal tax contribution here is just very attractive. So I think let's put it up. But now, this character and hopefully the following characters who are all these exalted warlords with tons of martial traits and perks, you'll be able to use those to even out or potentially even surpass any sort of advantage that the Scourge Conquerors might have. And frankly, given our army size and the men-at-arms, we may have reached the point where we are the most powerful ruler on the map. But I'd like to prove that by taking on some Scourge Conquerors whenever we get close enough to them. It's always one of the more enjoyable parts of the game where you have to spend the first part being extremely careful about these scourge conquerors and basically letting them bully you all over the map, making decisions such as becoming their tributaries to avoid them attacking you, and then eventually you get to a point where the tables turn and you're the one that's able to smash them at will and take their territory. Okay, so we got strong, meaning this character will be living for significantly extended time, among other benefits. Take the friendship there. Plan here will be to create some duchies and then hand them out to our family members. Probably not our sons, but our nephews are a good choice. Probably be slightly above the domain limit, but not a big concern. Guess for this one we can split it up among 2 people. Just check on exactly what's inside that, what counties are inside the duchy. And we can give the rest of the counties the duchy title to another one of our dynasty members. Checking there to make sure we had picked an innovation. And we can't usurp this duchy title because she's fighting a war, so instead we'll simply give all the counties to this person. Should be at his domain limit. Fine. Now we've given away all the counties. We just went to Poland, got back down below our domain limit. Create another accolade because we just discovered knighthood. Let's see what we have available here. Don't think any of those are that useful. There was sort of a question here of exactly what we're looking for. I think our first 3 really cover most things except possibly House Paragon that we can't get yet. Stalwart is also useful. We can hold off on the accolade for now. Obviously, just inflicted a fairly serious defeat on the Cumans here. I talked about fighting against Scourge Conquerors. Let's see what Scourge Conquerors are there in the world. Obviously, we see Abyssinia has put together a quite large empire. Amer, way over here in the northeastern corner of the map, have been expanding. Kyrgyz up here, again, sort of far away from us. A bit. So where is that guy? Okay, I guess there's two Abyssinian scourge conquerors, one of which has a very large realm and one of which has a very small realm. So this realm, largely around Persia. Then looks like someone else. Oh yeah, the Umarids down here. I've also noted that there is a massive Chinese Indian hegemony, I would assume. Yes, they are celestial, so that's interesting. My guess would be that some great conqueror from India conquered China when China split up, and then they formed this massive realm. So again, all of these are quite far away from us, and so it doesn't look like we'll have either the risk or opportunity of fighting any scourge conquerors in the near future. Instead, let's take a look at tips and see what wars we can declare. Ideally, we're looking for significant amounts of territory. Don't want to declare a war just over a single county. Like to get at least a duchy. Ideally one that has more than 2 counties, like Cornwall. I guess we can retake some of these lands that are still held by the Cumans. Wonder if there are other vassals that we could attack. Within the Cumans, since I still think they're over 160 counties, but maybe not. This one county here we can take. These will be taking a few counties at a time. I do think, especially since we just saw this character get the strong trait, that it's going to be worth, as soon as he finishes up with as many martial perks as we wanted to get, we will send him up the scholar tree to get sanctioned loopholes. Opponents are sieging very quickly because they're attacking a temple. Go destroy them. I think we take the stress here. I believe we can just get rid of it because we're athletic. So that is good. We have sappers, which should significantly increase our siege speed. This army has stopped running and has accepted its fate. When you conquer lots of territory, you do make lots of rivals that will try to kill you. We do have our cupbearer, food taster, 2 bodyguards. So I think we are about as well prepared as we can be to deal with potential assassins. sent by our rivals. See, our heir daughter is pregnant again. Hopefully she will have someone who can take the strong blood decision if we were to play as them. This is the son that has had at least a couple children who could take the strong blood decision. The problem is his education is terrible, so when we took over as him, we'd have a very low domain holdings. He also has a sin and lustful. And diplomacy is an okay lifestyle, but again, we really have to focus on martial at this point. So maybe if there are no scourge conquerors in the immediate vicinity, that becomes less important. I generally try to, when I hand out land, to not spread someone's domain across multiple duchies, but that's not a strict rule. And so I think that character, I gave one county that was in a different duchy from his main one. So we don't really want to be murdered. I think there's a lot we can do with this character, so we will redouble the guards, decrease his murder chance by 100%, but does have some heavy penalties, including stress gain, and glory hound vassal opinion, negative. Let's go on a grand tour, especially let's go hit some of these Rhinelander rulers. Let's check again here. So yeah, about 6 years away from hybridizing. I think we will still do a taxation tour, though we're getting closer and closer to doing majesty tours. And you do majesty tours because they grant additional renown as tribute. And there'll come a point where gold is not quite as important as it is now and has been, and we'd rather have the renown. Just looking for dukes here. Money, might as well get the prestige gain. Still don't need to increase the starting success of our tour, since we're hitting 10 locations. We are virtually certain to maximize our taxation tour success. Have people submitting to us as tributaries. Generally, for that decision, I just go with the additional control. I wanted to check here. Primarily, if there was anyone that wanted to be vassalized by us. Denmark looks like it was expanding quite a bit, but not a scourge conqueror, just an average ruler. Could try to get G-Land up there. Guessing it would be very expensive in terms of piety, and indeed it would. So we will forget about that. After this grand tour, we'll probably hold a grand tournament. After that, maybe a pilgrimage. if our truce with Cumans is up, we will attack them again instead, take some sort of duchy, probably in Hungary, since I think we should be somewhat close to getting, maybe not. No, so yeah, if we got another decently sized duchy in Hungary, we'd be able to form that king title. So we're looking toward. Our character is only 43, and he's in good health. You see he has plenty of traits here that are giving him that health. This is again our daughter who's our player heir. Again, this son, unfortunately, grandson, could not take the strong blood decision because he doesn't have any intelligence trait. I think we'll pin him just in case we feel the need to train him, educate him. Get this rather ubiquitous nickname that I'd prefer not to have. I tend to like having more rare, unique nicknames, but it's what it is. I think actually what's unfortunate is we did have the Great because we reformed the Holy Roman Empire, but now we have this very popular nickname that has overwritten that. Usually go for the top one here for the development growth. This event we've talked about before, it's just someone trying to steal our gold most of the time. So apparently not that one. Like getting cultural acceptance. This is our son who had previously had a number of genetically very good grandchildren. These aren't quite as good, but generally still better than what our current heir is producing. Get the cultural acceptance. I'm fine with giving away that rather useless artifact. Speaking of useless artifacts, this one is kind of unfortunate since now I guess he wasn't Rhinelander culture. I'd hoped to hit up the Rhinelander culture, but I seem to have failed to do that. This one, I guess, we'll go with the top since we have the gold to do it. Not a huge benefit to us for a large chunk of gold. So we talked a bit about the conditional join law and how people can attack our vassals. That is what I believe happened here. You can see that Flanders is, of course, a duchy in France, and yet they are waging war for a county in my realm. They did that because they were able to attack Brabrant without bringing me into the war. Those forces are actually kind of balanced, and it's possible that the war will go on long enough, which is to say 3 years, that I could then intervene. That does start to get me thinking about, are we better off switching to an administrative government? I guess I'd have to get one of my powerful vassals to like me a bit more, which we will start working on that now. Again, not really interested in becoming superstitious. For the adventure inspirations, you almost always want to go with find something truly unique. You get some amazingly powerful artifacts. The Ark of the Covenant. I talked before about really don't like getting those random modifiers from drinking flask. Wandering, especially since we've engaging in a decent amount of warfare, I like this perk since it increases supply duration. Children to actually change their culture and to keep what we currently have. Take that option to see if we can get more gold out of this guy. Got another dynasty legacy. Talked about getting the first 3 in blood, which is the first thing we did, then completing the warfare tree. I usually like going for the kin tree, just some very powerful modifiers here. Particularly this one, you get better education traits. That's very important now that domain limit is based on your education. This one, you get the dynasty opinion, along with increase in personal scheme chance. You get the House Paragon accolade, which gives more renown, and then graceful aging is just amazingly powerful in terms of increasing your skills with age. The no prowess loss is also still good, though the elder traits can cause you to lose prowess, separate from just losing prowess because of old age. We will go down the kin tree. Poor quality artifact, no reason for us to keep it, just rather have the gold. I talked about before, I don't give them anything in return, just keep my gold. Notification that the artifact quality improved. These books can be useful just for the health boost. Your character is getting old and you have some reason to want to keep them alive, which is typically that you're trying to educate some very young child of yours and get them to come of age before you die. Not sure if that will happen here. If we wanted to, we could start looking for another wife. But again, because we have 8 living children, I think it would be difficult for us to have more. I guess we'll take this budded blade, even though I would never equip it. can be useful to give out to vassals that are trying to rebel against us. I want to look to see where this disease is. Unfortunately, it's kind of close to where our character is located, but it's not close to our domain. Guess we'll accept this person's friendship. I think the popular opinion is worth the gold. Don't need a recruitment cost reductions as we've already bought about all we want. Go with this option. We'll take a fellow connoisseur for the monthly lifestyle experience increase. Again, very useful. A sort of interesting item. Don't know that I want to replace any of my current items with it. Sort of a mix of different focuses in terms of heavy infantry toughness, and then army screen, initial enemy hostile scheme success chance. Perhaps at some point we more systematically review all our artifacts. I'll think about displaying it. Here, I'll certainly want to do the first one for the Glory Hound Vassal opinion. Either one of these is fine. Both had 99% chance. To avoid stress. I think that was our last stop. I probably should have gone on a pilgrimage or two. Not a huge deal. Failed on a relatively high chance, but my wound was immediately fixed by my personal physician. Again, we get lots of renown, get a very powerful modifier, or I guess extend that very powerful modifier that we already had. We inherited a secondary barony that we will give away. I think that will be it for this episode. We'll start the next one with a grand tournament. Thanks again for watching. I hope you join me again. Bye.